Greetings, chess fans. My name is Arturs Neiksans. I'm the leading Latvian chess grandmaster. And as you probably guessed, this is yet another episode of my video series Inside the Mind of a Chess Grandmaster. In this playlist, I'm usually taking you through my journey, how me being a chess professional, how it feels like to play in international chess leagues and tournaments. So this game I played last Sunday in the second division of German Bundesliga. So the goal is to win the match. To be honest, already before this game, we already knew for sure that we are eligible for a qualification match. But if things really turn out great in some other matches, we could qualify for the first Bundesliga straight. We're going to talk about it a bit later. So this is the game I played against German Grandmaster Arkady Rothstein, who recently lost quite a lot of rating points. Like a couple of months ago, he was still rated 2450. Now, when I was playing this game, he was 2412. I was with white collar, and obviously with a lot of ambition to win the game. So I opened up with e4. And why e4? Because when I was preparing for the game, using the professional chess software that most over-the-board players use, is called ChessBase, I noticed one thing, that recently Rothstein, he really likes to play either the Sicilian Khan or the, whatever is this, modern or hyper dragon or something like with g6. I think it's modern defense. Not really sure. It's just not really great. So I had figured out what to do against both of them. And he played c5. I was like, okay, here we go. Knight f3, e6. So essentially what my opponent was trying to do, he was playing the Sicilian Khan against me. And why I'm telling you this is that I wrote the lifetime repertoires on Chessable Khan Sicilian a couple of years ago. So I know everything about it, right? So that's why I thought, big mistake, right? So instead of going for some anti-Sicilians here, which, by the way, I wrote a modern chess course like 5-6 years ago. I don't remember, that starts with g3. I thought definitely I'm going to go for the main line here. So d4, c takes, and now d4. So there's the perks of writing a course. So I can easily play it from the white's perspective, because I know some of the most poisonous setups that white can choose against black. So he played a6, and I played c4. Actually, there's a very funny, actually maybe it's not even funny, it's intriguing story. When I was playing against Arturs, one of the leading Norwegian grandmasters, it was in Swedish league a couple of seasons ago, Aryan played against me a3. And after a3, I was not really happy to play knight f6, knight c3, e5 is a threat, so I have to play some Scheveningen, because after queen c7, white insists on e5, so you have to play Scheveningen, which is normally not something that black wants to do. If he's a Khan or Tamano player. So that's why with a3, what I did in that game, after queen c7, c4, knight f6, and knight c3. And what Aryan told me, he believes that this is the strongest continuation for white. And why is that? Because after the super modern continuation after c4, knight f6, knight c3, he says black probably equalizes after bishop b4. And indeed, there's this line after queen d3, d5, takes, bishop b2. White is slightly pressing, but it probably also goes against the logic for black, because if black plays the Sicilian Khan, he usually wants to go for a fight. Yeah, that's the way I treat it. Like if somebody plays the knight dwarf, he wants to go for a fight. So that's why going for a position where black has to hold on, having a slightly worse position, probably holdable, maybe is not the best choice. By the way, it's very interesting detail here. I decided to ignore it, and if my opponent is going to do it, fine, no problem. But he played queen c7. And naturally, there's two major choices. I can play a3, or I can play bishop e2. And this is the modern continuation. Now, the trick is after bishop b4, it appears that black is applying some pretty serious pressure against the pawn on e4, but I can just play knight c2. And this knight c2 move in all kinds of Sicilian variations is a very poisonous idea. Let's say black decides to take it and snatch the pawn. Suddenly there's queen d4 hitting the knight and the pawn on g7, and this is a dream position for white. Anchoring the bishop on d6, the black king is stuck in the center for long, like maybe black can somehow play knight e7 and cast a short, but if I get at some point something like this, black's entire queen side essentially is paralyzed. So this extra pawn he has, I don't think it even matters. So it didn't happen. My opponent instead played something else. He played b6. I played shook castle. He played bishop b7, hitting the pawn on e4. And here you probably would expect that white's going to play f3, bishop e3, and the classical hedgehog. But I had very nice memories about the move queen d3 because I was once on the receiving side. I think this was year 2015 when I was playing in European Team Chess Championships in Reykjavik in Iceland for Team Latvia. And my opponent was Croatian well-experienced Grandmaster Palach Mladen, if I'm not terribly mistaken. And he schooled me completely in this line. He played a very, very powerful combination, which back then in 2015 was not really that well known. And I got a major disadvantage after the opening. I won the game, but this entire setup with queen d3 left upon me such a strong impression that ever since I've been playing it from white's perspective whenever I get a chance. So yeah, black played d6, now comes f4, knight e7, and b4. A very shocking move, but actually now black cannot easily activate any of his pieces. So this b4 looks like really weird, but black is sort of at least immediately unable to exploit it. So probably you're thinking, why not a5? Because after a3 captures, the rook on a1 is undefended. Well, but now it gets really sharp. I can sacrifice a couple of pawns, like the pawn on e4, the pawn on b4. Black could go here. I play knight e6. Black cannot take it because the knight on d7 has nowhere to go and the position is opening up. So things could get really nasty for black very quickly, like this. Queen g3, the pawn on g7 is under attack. There's a fork on c7. It's not even clear if black actually wants to take on e6. And the engine really loves white. That's all you need to know. So a5 is not possible. And I had a vague memory that black probably can play something like d5. The point is he hits the pawn on b4. And now there's a forcing line. I capture on e6. He plays here. I capture on f7. I wasn't sure where to place the queen. Probably something like queen h3. And here the engine gives the line with queen d7, which I really did not remember during the game. But the point is, black is slightly worse, but probably he's going to hold it. Like, he's pretty active, but, you know, I would say a pawn is a pawn. Right? And again, from the black's perspective, it's not really great outcome because he has to fight for a draw, essentially. But it didn't happen. My opponent played bishop e7, and I blitzed out very quickly bishop e3, not even paying attention to the position because I was following the game that Palach Mladen played against me in 2015. And then I was thinking, yeah, why not actually something like bishop b2, which, to be honest, makes a bit more sense because it opens up also the queen, potential route on g3 at some point later. But okay, fine. I play bishop e3, castles, and rook c1. So my idea is I'm thinking at some moment to play knight e5, which is a pretty common Sicilian idea. So he played rook d8, and he's implying that there might be knight e5. Like, let's say I'm making some random move. For example, I'm playing here. He could play knight e5. The point is, after takes, the knight on d4 is pinned, and suddenly black gets very active. Also, the pawn on b4 is under attack. But there's a shocking move, knight e5, and white still keeps a very large advantage. So if black wants to play knight e5, it's not even happening immediately. But I was first. So I played knight e5 immediately, but before playing this move, I was like double checking. Am I missing something? Why is he allowing me to play knight e5 so easily? I thought that with the move rook c1, I'm basically signaling I want to play knight e5, and now he allows me to do it. Yeah, so I sat here like 50 minutes checking things, and I played it. So I played knight e5. Now the point is he has to take with the pawn, otherwise he's just losing something. So he has to take it, c takes on d5, and now he faces a tough choice. If he plays queen b8, there's a fork. So you see he has to react. And now I take it, and the best part is maybe I'm not even threatening to win the knight. I just want to fork as well. The pawn on a6 is under attack as well, so if black goes knight c5, which is almost strictly the only move. This is a very forcing line. He takes the pawn, I go bishop f3, and this pawn on c6 is a monster. So he has to go here. Maybe black is going to make a draw, probably not, because the pawn on c6 is strong. Even though we have obstacle of bishops on the board, I would rate white's chances very high in a practical game. So yeah, queen b8 immediately leads black to a trouble endgame. So he played knight c5. I took it, and I'm thinking, I have seen this before. Like, I cannot explain it. I have seen this position before. Like, I have played it against somebody, probably in a rapid game, and I cannot remember against who. Maybe it was against my opponent some years ago, because he's repeating the line, apparently. But I was not sure. So I was thinking, definitely black has to take d takes on c5. It's risky. It allows white to create strong passed pawns in the center, but there's just no other way. Black has to think like b5, c4, bishop c5, and try to be active. And I recalled that in that rapid game, I had played knight f5, threatening some very nasty bishop d4, e6, d6, e5 ideas, maybe lift the queen to g3, so he has to get rid of the knight ASAP. I will play g4, rook e8, bishop f3, and let's say he takes it, take it. I just do not believe he can hold this together. So most likely he has to sacrifice a piece somehow. And in that rapid game, I think somehow black managed to play knight e7 and f6 and bishop d6 to block those pawns in time. And during the game I was playing on Sunday, I was trying to understand, can he block it or not? Anyway, it didn't happen. Because my opponent, he played b takes on c5, he was trying to be solid, and I just thought it's a mistake. So black's position is unpleasant, but you cannot afford to be passive when it's unpleasant. You have to complicate stuff. Now I wanted to play knight f5 immediately, but I decided to wait on it, because maybe I also have an idea to play knight c6. So I started with bishop f3. The point is, I'm toying with these two ideas. Like, let's say he would walk away with a queen to guard these squares better. I would probably play knight c6, takes. If he takes it, then I play e5. The queen is hit. And if he takes it, I take on d8. So I saw this line. I'm winning probably an exchange or a rook or something. Yeah, probably here in this line it's a rook. So it's good. My opponent went here. And yeah, I don't know. I was thinking about the knight c6 again. Takes. He cannot eliminate the pawn. I want to play queen a6. And I looked at this line, and I was not sure. Like, I'm again probably winning an exchange. I'm going back here, but maybe black is holding on somehow. So it didn't really look so convincing, and I really wanted to go for the attack. So that's why I was very proud of the move bishop d2. Very proud, because it enabled so many ideas. Like, for example, there's knight b3 and bishop a5 idea. There's also the knight f5 and bishop c3 idea. So the bishop on d2 stands much better than on e3. Also, if I would play knight f5 immediately, I just didn't see immediate follow-up. Oh wait, I think it was g6. Yeah, g6, knight e7, queen e7, and my pawn on e4 is kind of under attack. Rook c4 is bishop d5. And maybe I have to play a gambit somehow, like here, and I don't know, f5 or something. Otherwise, he plays a5 himself. I just didn't really want to engage in this discussion. That's why I decided to play a bishop d2 immediately. He played a bishop f8, which I thought it's pretty natural. If he had played like g6, stopping the knight f5, I think I would have probably played at queen side, like knight b3. That's why I said this bishop d2 was such a powerful idea, because I'm able to play on both flanks at the same time. So he went here, I played knight f5, and here I think my opponent made another mistake. He played g6, which feels pretty natural. Here, I was thinking only of bishop c8. An engine, by the way, here loves knight a3, knight c4, h3, g4 to squeeze the life of black. But to be honest, I was just looking at some g4. And I thought from afar, he kills the knight, I play g5, this bishop is dead, the knight is dead. I'm thinking about some future kingside attack ideas, maybe at the right time to play f6, bishop c3, to bishop, squeeze position. It should be almost winning for white. And engine confirms it. So he played g6, but still, I mean, that was the necessary choice for black. And now after bishop c3, black is immediately like toast. Because here, there's no way to defend the knight without suffering massive casualties. Like this is just very bad. There's always queen g3. Bishop f5 is probably also ending with a swift mate, so he cannot sacrifice the knight, and he had to go here. And I think he probably wrongly evaluated this position from the afar, because he thought the knight is under attack, there's nowhere to go, and after knight e3, bishop g7, takes, knight f6, he's kind of okay. But that's the best part. I don't really have to move the knight. So I'm thinking, how do I remove the bishop to enable queen h3 and knight h6 idea? Assuming he cannot take it. And I really want to play bishop g4, really want to play, because not only it enables queen h3, it also enables some this bishop attack ideas on this diagonal. So I'm thinking he has to take it. Like something like h5 is complete nonsense, I could just sacrifice the bishop, queen income, so he's simply checkmated. So he has to take it, I take with the bishop, and I'm looking at this position. Like, if he goes bishop g7, which was the critical line, there's so many tricks here to calculate. Like, I was looking at this. He plays f6. I was looking at this. He goes here. He plays bishop c8. And I was looking at rook f3. I was looking at e5. I couldn't work it out. Then I was looking at some sacrifices, like here, and queen h3, and here. I was looking at this, and rook f3, and rook h... Wait, I think it was rook g8. And he's, again, surviving. So I'm calculating, cannot find it, but I'm very confident there's a win. I feel there's a win, and I cannot find it. Engine confirmed it, that my gut feeling was correct. So there is a win. It's not super obvious. So you take it, you give a check here. Now black wants to play knight f8 to defend from the mate. Bishop h7 is a very classic, like Emanuel Lasker's famous two bishop sacrifice. Okay, here it's just one bishop, but I'm exposing the king. And after king h7, here apparently I did not see rook c3. I had only thought I can play queen h4, king g7, rook c3, and I saw there's some knight f8. Knight f8, rook g3, knight g6, rook h8. There's no way I'm going to give a mate here. And I stopped to calculate. But apparently the move order is really important. So I play rook c3 immediately. And now he's in big trouble. I think after knight f8 I just play like f5. I think so, actually. I didn't check this. And after knight g6, takes. There's a win somehow. Somehow there's a win. I don't know. Yeah, like check here and queen f6 and rook h3. It's just so ugly. This extra piece that black has on b7, it doesn't really feel. And finally, the critical idea. After king h7, rook c3, he plays here. I give a check here and queen e7 with rook g3 and checkmate. So it's rook g3, queen h4, mate. That's it. Knight f6, black has to go with a queen. That's the best black can do. So I had a correct feeling, but I couldn't just figure it out. I think it's going to make a very nice calculation exercise for my students. So the coach cannot solve it. Let my students solve it. But I decided not to sacrifice the piece because maybe there's no need for me to do that. And I just decided to play bishop e2 instead, which I thought is simpler. I don't need to engage in these crazy lines. So he cannot take it now because now there's no bishop on g4. It's just a mate. Bishop g7, queen g7, it's a mate. The king has nowhere to go. So that's why I was thinking he has to go here, c4. And from afar, I wanted to go here, queen h3. He takes on e4. I give a check. I play queen h6. Other thoughts it's close to winning. Like he can sacrifice the exchange. I play f5. I have a terrific attack, but the engine wants to continue this line and says g takes on f5, do your worst. And here after king h1, white has a large advantage. You know, I did not see this. But I'm pretty sure if he had played c4, I would have figured out that queen f3 is just good. Yeah, just defend the pawn on e4. There's no need to sacrifice it. Now I'm not going to go for the mate. I'm going to collect the pawn. like knight e3, bishop d4, collect a pawn. Yeah, and the attack is going to wait like this, or maybe knight g3, collect a pawn on c4, f5 is also incoming, a big attack like h4, h5, so he has no chances to defend the king. None of this happened, because he played f6, and I knew instantly it's game over. Like, you couldn't play like that with black so passive, you have to take your chances. Now I just retreated, knight e3, I have like knight c4, bishop a5, I have bishop g4 ideas, so his position is just falling apart. He went here, I went knight c4, threatening to play here, and now was the final chance for black to go f5. So he had to complicate matters. And here I was thinking, while my opponent was making a choice, I was thinking how to finish him off immediately. So I want to go here, hit a queen, hit the rook, and the pawn on d6. He probably takes it, and I wanted to go here. So I'm winning an exchange, but from afar I thought that black suddenly gets very active. So I might win an exchange, but at least visually, I don't like it. I don't know, like black could go like this, and let's say I'm winning an exchange, and probably it's winning, but pawn on a2 is under attack, there's some knight g4, why do I trade my activity just for an exchange? So I was like, nah, it's not that good. Okay, then I wanted to play queen h3. With an idea, he goes here, I take on d8, I hit the knight, he can't take with the queen, there's knight d6, so he goes here. I wanted to find a killing move, like here, knight e6, threatening with a smothered mate. But again, the line continues. He gives a check here and plays knight f8. Hits the knight. I give a check, he goes here. And yeah, here engine says queen b6, rook b1 is some freak move and white is having a large advantage, but queen e7 doesn't work because of rook d7. Black wins, actually. Either way, I was looking at these lines and I just could not make it work. And in the end, I just decided after f5, okay, listen, I'm just going to take it. I don't need bishop a5. So he takes on c3, I just take it. He plays knight f6, he wants to complicate stuff. I don't need to complicate stuff. Simplify, here, queen f7, takes, and some knight e3. I have 2-pawn advantage at the king side. It should be winning. And the engine confirms it. So that's what I was thinking. And he played rook c8, another passive move. I went here, and I think that my opponent mostly was expecting that I'm going to play bishop g4, hit the knight and pin the rook, and after this I think he wanted to go here, and knight f6, or maybe start with bishop d4, check here, and knight f6, and bishop f3, and something, yeah, like maybe knight e5, and he has some activity. But the best part is, I don't need any of that. I know f5 is coming. I will play f5 if I was black. So what do? I apply more pressure. I just play rook b1. But after this, black's position becomes immediately hopeless. So if he moves the queen, there's knight e6. So I thought he has to now give it a try, f5. And I take it. He gives a check. I go here, and queen a8. And from afar, I thought this is the best he can do. So I can take on d6, but this requires some very precise calculation. Bishop f3, rook e3, I take on d5, and have to see from afar I can take on c8 because there's a fork. Which, by the way, I mean, it's possible to miss it. So I was thinking, instead, I can just take on g6. Take on g6, he plays some bishop d5, and I just play bishop f3 or g takes on h7 first. It's definitely winning. I have 2 extra pawns, his king is weak, I'm going to figure it out. I was not really concerned about it, but I knew he has to play f5. And he played bishop f8. Yeah, and after this, it's just over completely, because now there's no bishop d4 ideas. Now he played f5, but that's too late. And after knight f6, I could have played bishop f3 immediately back, but I was looking for the fastest way to finish off the game. I took on g6, I took on h7, and I played bishop c3. Actually, there's a funny moment. He cannot save the knight. Like, if he goes here, I can take it, and look at this pawn actually can promote. So the bishop on f8 blocks the rook. He cannot do that. So he played king h8, because the queen on d3 guards the pawn on h7. I gave a check. All of this is super forcing. Takes, and queen g3. That's it. By the way, Engine was giving here some funny lines like, I think it was here, rook f3. Just makes no sense at all. So I just take it, collect the knight, and if he takes on h7, queen g4, rook b3, rook h3, checkmate immediately. And he made a couple of moves after queen g4. I thought he had to go rook e7, rook g7, somehow get a pawn on d5, get a pawn on g2, but all of these lines, they're not so difficult for white. I'm keeping my 3, 4, or 5 extra pawns. What's the count actually? 1, 2, 3, 4 extra pawns. And I'm easily winning. Yeah, so he played queen c7 instead. I sacrificed the exchange, and after 96, finally, my opponent resigned. That's it, because also everything is starting to fall apart. Maybe he can play queen d5 here, queen d4 here. I thought this is the final trick he can do, like queen f2, and maybe queen g8 takes, and the queen on f2 is under attack, and that's it. Yeah, that was the game. I was very, very happy about it, and I think basically the message was, you do not play the Count Sicilian against the Count Sicilian expert. I mean, jokes aside, of course, you can play it, but it turned out pretty bad for my opponent, mostly because I was applying the modern touch of the Count Sicilian theory against the old school hedgehog setup. And by the way, I have made a bootcamp about a hedgehog setup from the Black's perspective. You can check it out. And if you're interested about the nuances of the Count Sicilian from the Black's perspective, you're gonna have to go in the description of this video and find the link to my Chessable course. So what happened in the weekend, I finished with the perfect 2 points out of 2, as I had won the Saturday game as well. And overall, I scored a very nice performance of 2650, I think, approximately. That was the performance rating I was playing. And we almost made it immediately to the first division, because it's a very weird system. I mean, maybe it's not weird, but no, I think it's weird. In the Bundesliga, that 3 teams are getting relegated from the highest division, where Magnus Carlsen and Domraji Gukesh, they play. And 3 teams can ascend. But in the second, there's two second divisions. So the top finishers of both divisions of the second Bundesliga, they immediately ascend to the highest division. But then there are the second places. And if there are 2 second places, there's supposed to be a relegation match. Unless one of those second places is a team that cannot physically ascend, like Baden-Baden. Because Baden-Baden has an incredibly strong team in Bundesliga. So the second team of Baden-Baden cannot ascend. And if they finish in the second or the first place, this means we automatically would qualify from the other second division. I know it's very confusing, but you get a point. We're following second team's Baden-Baden final match on Sunday. It was more interesting than our own match, because we already had secured the second place in our own division, and they had to win. They were nominally stronger, and they drew. They played 4-4, and they finished third, and this means we are going to have a qualification match with the team Hoffenheim on the 13th April. So I think we're small favorites by the numbers. But I'm pretty sure they're going to call all Grandmasters. We are going to call all Grandmasters, so it's going to be a complete bloodfest. That's it. This is the game. These are my insights. I hope you like them. And of course, if you like my videos as usual, press the like button, because this allows me to grow as a content creator. And write your thoughts about the Count Sicilian. How does it feel for you? Are you playing Count Sicilian yourself? Are you playing the hedgehog? What do you think about the Merzig Bahn against the Count Sicilian? I think actually it's the strongest combination, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts. That's it. I'm finishing here. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'm out of here.